All right. Greetings, everyone. Greetings. You are seeing what it looks like on YouTube. It could be a little clearer. We're going to work on we're definitely going to work on our visuals as well as our sound. I hope that you all can hear me a-okay. Now, my name is Chef India. You're with Back to Live by Chef India. If this is your first time joining our channel, it is a channel about living a living raw life, not a style. All that it encompasses and entails from my perspective and point of view as an African woman, our empress, I would say, no woman, right? And the various stages that I've experienced it encompassing with my goal to be, as close to the Almighty as possible and as clean of a vessel as possible so that I can express my highest spiritual being on this planet while I'm here in this time. That's what living foods, a raw, not a life, not a style, but a way of life is for I, and that's what this channel is about. So if you haven't, there's some videos of how just a little bit about myself, because it's been a while since I have been online. So I do want to let everyone know who are in the chat room that if you want to join in a conversation, please do. Please type in the chat box. If you have any questions while I speak, please ask them. Please be engaging, because it also inspires me, right? So, and I think more ones and ones can learn more and more, because this channel is not just about, oh, you need to listen to my perspective, but it's more of a sharing, right? So if you're in the chat room, definitely engage if you feel so inclined to. Yeah, so I was saying that some of the videos, I've been a living foodist. I just want to do a little history of myself. I've been a living foodist for about 14 years, which means, well, I would say for a good 10 years of this journey, I had not eaten any cooked food. And I did numerous cleanse, numerous detoxes. I am a life, not a style coach when it comes to this as well, for ones and ones who are looking to transition into being more alive, because that's really what a living foodist is about, right? You could check out my website. We'll go through all of that. I don't want to spend so much time talking about that. I just want to give everybody the links. The links will be below. Of course, if you feel so inclined to, press subscribe, all of those things, everybody always goes through that, right? So I will say that today I am coming to you. I haven't come to you in a while. And today I'm coming to you to speak about I guess it's not new. I mean, it's been around for some time, and that is the alkaline vegan movement, I would say. And it has picked up steam, and it's become more prominent for ones and ones who consider themselves somewhat aware and conscious to classify their foods now as alkaline vegan, right? And for I, just like the title says, for I, it is definitely just another gimmick, right? And the reason why I say that is not because of I think the concept in general of what alkaline vegan stands for, right? Or what it represents, which would be clean eating, really for the most part, right? But on one mundane level, it's like the system that most people live in, that we are transitioning out of as a human race, for ones and ones who are called to transition into the next phase of existence. we know that the system in which most people operate and are conditioned in. I'm back. All right, I'm back. Thank you for staying with me. Really, I do apologize for the delay. Um, as I was saying, is the environment in which most people, ones and ones, operate in, it thrives off of classification, separation, disunity. Puts things in all different kind of categories so that you can stay confused. Right, like that's the fullness, of classifications. And that even applies to the classification of what people will call health foods and all of these different things. But in the fullness, it's just food in their unadulterated state. We will get into, as far as alkaline, the issue of alkaline, and even like what that means really when we speak about alkaline vegan, right? But yeah, so classifications, before there was vegan, the original, title for ones and ones who do not consume animals or animal products, wear animal clothing, were vegetarians, and they were known to be kind of like the hippie people, the people who didn't wash their under armpits and things like that, right? So vegetarian is the original title. I don't, vegan, it was created and it's become very popularized. Hey, Tamika Jackson. Hey, hey, give a shout out. Give a shout out where you're from. I do want to see where people are tuning in from. I'm in Belize, Central America. Yeah, so vegetarian is the original, that's the original title for ones and ones who decide not to consume animal products or wear animal clothing or have anything to do with the slaughtering of animals, especially for the consumption of entertainment and all of those things like that. So we don't really deal with that. But that's the original. So they came in with a new classification of vegan. So now it's like, well, oh, New Jersey, USA. All right, that's what's up. Um, Shout out to New Jersey. But yeah, so uh yeah, vegetarian, and then they came out with vegan, and now there's this alkaline vegan, which is very interesting. Danielle from LA, what's up, Miss Danielle? We have Arnett Rose from Texas. Faith over fear, shout out from Texas. That's what's up. I'm just gonna continue forward. So if you join in, I'm just gonna give everyone a shout out so I could keep my train of thought. But yeah, so the classifications, vegan, now there's alkaline vegan, and I find it very interesting because, you know, a lot of times people will attach themselves to movements and attach themselves. Blessed love, yes, blessed love, Rastafari. Every time, give thanks, Omega I. You know, people. I forgot what I was saying, but yes, yes. Anyone else has something to say? We have shout out. I got while my thought comes back to me. Yeah, so these classifications, vegan, now this alkaline vegan. And I find it very interesting that ones and ones attach themselves to different movements or expressions. And then, but the real research behind it is not necessarily done. Like there's not a lot of reading done. It's just more so, you know, they put in practice. They hear like, you know, this is good for you, so you should do it like this. You should. This is how CMOS took off. You know, everybody's like, oh, it's good for inflammation, it helps your needs, and you know, but no one was really interested in changing their consumption. Most people. I can't speak for all people, but a lot of people were not interested in changing their consumption. They were just looking for the next thing to cover their ailment, you know, so that they can continue forward and not be in stress. So I find it interesting that, with that said, I find it interesting that a lot of what alkaline vegan represents is in the foundational principles of eating in order of ma'at, you know, ma'at and balance, you know, a comedic consumption, our original consumption. And now it's like now Babylon has taken that and packaged it and so this, and this, which is one level of fraud that I'm speaking of, you know, which, you know, it serves as a level of fraud in a sense because, and it just is also, you know, the old game of redoing what has already been done, right? So we have to note and we have to give credit to the original basis, which would be the comedic consumption, and that is in balance, and also that it was high in alkaline foods, are, you could say, because there are not that many in comparison to the amount of alkaline foods versus acidic foods, and we're talking about in their natural form. uh there's way more alkaline foods than there are acidic fruits or foods, right? So now, if it has an alkaline or an acidic effect on the system, is a whole nother part of this conversation, which is the reason why I will say that much of what people are representing as being alkaline vegan is just fraud, right? Like straight up. Because, you know, if you have uh even alkaline foods in their natural state and you go and you adulterate it in any kind of way, that means that you're not picking it straight from the tree, that you're not growing it yourself, that you're not putting your energy into that, then it's you know, we're talking about that. We're not talking about food that, you know, now you say, you know, you have I think it's like you could make, maybe they'll make a burro banana flour if there isn't one already, right? And it's, yeah, it's supposed to be alkaline, but now it's picked, it's processed, and now most people are going to roll that up, make it into a bread, make it into something, and then fry it. You know, I see all of these so-called alkaline vegan chefs, you know, frying foods and then calling it alkaline vegan. And it's like, okay, it is vegetarian, you know, I'll give you that. And then on, you know, like it is vegetarian. But on the flip side of it, like you frying it in oil, anytime you even heat oil, like it becomes acidic to the goodie. Check. That's why, you know, most really knowledgeable living foodists will not use oil, like really for the most part. You know what I'm saying? And if they do, they will use certain kind of oils. And most of the times you would want to see, you know, you would want to get your oils from the actual source, right? So with all of that said, um, that's the first level of why I call it a gimmick. That's the first reason why I call it a gimmick, right? And the second reason, that's just on the physical level, right? Like when we're talking about like the metabolic level, like, you know, and we're also talking about a population. Let's talk about the population which alkaline vegan has attracted and has captured, right? That population is kind of new to coming out of the flesh eating mentality. It's not just about not eating the flesh, you know, it's not just about, oh, well, I'm vegan or I'm raw foodist or I'm no, it's about, you know, continue elevation and cleansing. That cleansing process has just begun. Blessed love. Uh Someone says not to interrupt you. I will. Yeah, it's okay. It's okay. It's okay. Greetings, everyone. Not to interrupt your train of thought. However, I am so glad that you are speaking about this. Yeah, you know, I just had to. I just felt so inspired. Right? So, um, yeah. So as far as like on a metabolic level, like when we're speaking about how the goodie actually recognizes and keeps the, well, I would say keeps the balance of alkalinity versus acidity in the system, right? Obviously their acidic nature does carry some level of usefulness, else the body will not create it or the goodie will not create it, right? So when it comes to what you consume, when you consume foods, okay, no, I was speaking of, excuse me, I was speaking about the demographic. I'll get back to that part. But when I was speaking about the demographic of the ones and ones that have been captured by this movement and this gimmick, in a sense, right? So a lot of them are new to the ideology of like not coming out of, they're coming out of and separating themselves from having a flesh mentality, a flesh eating mentality, which is a base mentality, which is when we get into like the metaphysics of it, it's on a whole different perspective, even the classification of alkaline vegan, but we'll get there as well, right? So these ones and ones, and it's not, if you are new to it, that's cool. Like there's nothing wrong with that. Like people are where they're at in their journey, and it's all one energy, and it's all one goal. It's There's no goal that's separated from, you know, the Almighty's goal. It's one goal. So when ones and ones start to wake up, it's only one source that's responsible for that, no matter who is part of that journey, right? So no matter where you're at, feel proud of where you're at. I am just saying, and I'm just stating that in truth, in fact, most of the ones and ones that this classification has captured are really new to coming into a self-awareness to stop eating the flesh and understand like their spirit has been called to consume differently for whatever reason, right? So so for them this is a big improvement. You know what I mean? If you have someone who's eating a whole bunch of processed foods, even if it's so-called vegan, it's still going to have a detrimental effect on the system, on the goodies. So if they stop eating those things and they start eating more in balance of ma'at, which is natural eating, it's just simple, it's just natural eating, has nothing to do with anything else, it's just natural eating. um you know, then they feel the improvement, so they want to make those changes. So that's only natural, right? So like they're going to say like, this is how I will forever eat, this is how like I will forever be, right? um Excuse me. So yeah, but that's not necessarily where it ends or where it should end, as far as ones and one's journey to be able to go deeper and research more and more about like what does it really mean to be alkaline, what creates an alkaline environment in the system. And as I was saying earlier, there aren't, like in comparison to the alkaline foods, in nature and the acidic foods in nature, there's more alkaline foods, right? So obviously we should be eating more alkaline foods than acidic foods, right? Now, whether those alkaline foods, you could take those alkaline foods and you can it can create an acidic environment in the goodie, right? And those ones and ones who are new to this journey, who are new to cleansing, who have just begun this exciting way to exist, right? The system is not fully cleansed out, so the taste and the goodie, okay, so the goodie still has a tolerance for these kind of foods, but as ones and ones cleanse and continue forward and really consume the original alkaline consumption, which is a all live, living, raw, not a style consumption, then as ones and ones cleanse out, they become more sensitive to understand that the balance of alkaline and acidic is not just about having commit bread or making flax tortillas, or just like the whole keto consumption thing is a scam as well. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's just straight. Like, that's how I feel about it. Knowing what I know about nutrition, that's how I feel about it. And I will say that, and that's a whole nother topic, but it's just to say that so is the alkaline vegan, because in the fullness, we are not meant to eat animal products in the first place. We don't have the structure, we don't have the digestive system. We could go on and on and on and on about that. So really, when it comes to that, when you're moving away from eating animal products, you actually are becoming more alkaline, more alkaline, more alkaline. Your system is becoming more alkaline instead of being overloaded and overburdened uh, in an acidic nature. Okay, so that's the second reason why I call it a gimmick, because alkaline, because of the category situation, our circumstance, or excuse me, classification. And then the other reason why I feel like it's a gimmick is because I feel like it tries to piggyback off of Dr. Sabi's work when it comes to defining, non-hybrid, hybrid foods. He spoke a lot about acidic nature of the goodie, the alkaline versus alkaline nature, and what foods, causes this and what foods causes that, so I I kind of, and it doesn't really, give in fullness, like credit in the fullness. It's just now it's like this new thing, right? Um, the other thing, the other thing is that on a on a that was on a metabolic level, right? So you can have foods that you can even combine your foods wrong and create an acidic nature in the system. Like, if you decide, hey, I'm gonna have some watermelon, and then, like, before the watermelon fully digests and breaks down, you'd be like, oh, I'm gonna have some peanuts, or I'm gonna have some papaya. Well, papaya maybe, but I'm gonna have some banana, even banana, right? And they're both fruits, like, but because they're eaten in a proximity of time in which they don't digest properly because melons have to digest by themselves, then boom, you have an acidic nature in your system and you've eaten alkaline foods. So, and they're fruits, so they're non-animal. So that would be alkaline vegan, but does that mean that it is alkaline to your system? So a lot of what people are showing as alkaline vegan is extremely acidic. Right. So I think that that's another reason why I felt so inclined to come here and speak about this, because it's clearly acidic. Anything fried is clearly acidic. Anything with most oils, added oils, acidic. A lot of starches can be acidic, to the system, have an acidic effect to the system. And as you cleanse out, you even get to be more sensitive to the minute levels of inflammation that occurs. And this is another reason to go all live. This is another reason to be all raw, and really continue forward beyond just, I'm not eating animal products, but I have some fried oyster mushroom sandwich. with some avocado, you know, like I know that sounds really delicious, but does it break down properly? Does it feed the system, or is it feeding an energy that's calling for those animal products, which is on another level. So the other fourth reason, I think this would be the fourth reason, correct? Yeah, this would be the fourth reason why I say it's a gimmick, is because on a metaphysical level, um, the changes that we make in our lives, um, that we are called to make in our lives, I will better say, they're not of our own. Like, we get inspired, right? We get inspired to be able to make positive changes in our life, whether that's through hard circumstances, whether that's you just had enough of being in a certain way, whether it's that whatever it is, there's a divine inspiration that comes to promote that movement forward. Now, we all have free will, we do have choice, so we can listen and we can, you know, grow, and we can start to get cleaner and cleaner and change our consumption, or we cannot and we can suffer physically, which is, you know. So for me, for ones and ones to, you know, say that alkaline vegan, um and show something opposite on a metaphysical level, that affects the whole vibration of growth, which is another twist that Babylon likes to do. You know, Babylon uh loves to put out a word sound and then represent that word sound in opposite, right? So it's like double speak, right? So we're calling it alkaline vegan, but then it's not alkaline vegan, right? And so most people who are making that progress, they're making that progress, making that progress, but then they get to a point where, even on a metaphysical level, spiritually speaking, a growth like gets halted or slows down, right? Because now, you know, now the goodie has gotten rid of the toxins it needed to, and now it needs to transition into the next level of cleansing, so that ones and ones can have a better understanding of themselves on a spiritual level, but then mental level, physical level as well. Like, you know, so, but because of this classification now, most people are not inclined. Like, I saw a post where someone said that this will always be where they're at. This will always be only what they eat. And um, then they showed the pictures of what it was, and it wasn't that. So on a metaphysical level, we are coming out of the psyche of flesh eating. I never grew up as a living foodist. I wasn't a vegetarian. You know what I mean? Like, I still remember the BLT sandwiches. Like, I still remember those things, right? Because they're so ingrained in your coming up. They're so ingrained in your being, because they were introduced during your formative years. So that's why those imprints have been left on us, right? So metaphysically speaking, I feel that the ultimate goal is not to replicate what was causing the acidic nature in the first place through trying to do it plant-based, right? um I feel that we should aim to find our own new ways to represent our foods, to give them classifications. Because what is food? Like, food is the feeding of your whole being. Like, it's really deep when you really think about it. You know what I'm saying? Like, when you intake food, that is the most intimate thing that you are doing ever. That's the most intimate thing anyone can do, is intake food, right? So if something looks like a chicken burger and I'm eating it, there's only so much progression I can make in my essence, really, right? To come out of that flesh eating mentality, because it's part of a full system of that destroys itself and eats itself up. You understand what I'm saying? Because everything is unified. And I think earlier in the conversation, I was saying that as far as like Babylon loving to separate things and give classifications to things so that people can be separate, right? They could be separated because einity and awareness is there's only one consumption for man, for humans, right? That is all live, raw, plant-based consumption. And I'm not, what I'm saying? Like that is from my perspective, that's from my experience. And as ones and ones get more accustomed to cleansing out their systems, they also graduate, like their systems graduate. So what used to be, toxic now is extremely toxic to their system, right? Because they've cleansed out and cleansed out and cleansed out. It's like when people go on fast or long fast, they're opening up their system, right? They're putting out waste and on deep levels, because anytime after you're not eating for 8 hours, your body goes into fasting mode. And then when you think about it, your goody, if you're fasting for more than 3 days, which it takes 3 days for your system to fully process what you consume, and every 3 days, I believe it's every 3 days, but it's very often that the lining of the lining of the intestine renews itself. So with that said, if you're fasting after 3 days, your system is completely open. It starts to get more open and more open. And remember, it's still expelling waste, even if you're not having like super regular bowel movements, which you should, but it's still expelling waste. And this all has to do with, like alkaline and this, alkaline vegan thing, right? Because the thing is that if your system is fully open and then you go and you put something in there, it doesn't have that buffer anymore, like of waste. And it kind of is a catch-22, because that buffer of waste can be causing a lot of ailments that you may not be aware of, that you're suffering from. And but then on the other end, now once you've cleansed, you really do have a responsibility to go forward to the next level and the next level. And only you and the creator know what that level and what that level is. I can only speak from a perspective of having consumed living foods for 14, going on 14 years now, having done numerous cleanse, having had my experiences as a chef, as a person who works in this business as well, of helping others, helping others dietary wise when it comes to making transition into this way of consumption. So I will say that, I'm gonna go back to what I was saying, but yeah. Somebody remind me while I read through some of the comments here. I do this with watermelon all the time, and it's so unpleasant. Indigo Lynn, can you help me understand, you do what with if you're still on with watermelon? And then Ray Green, corporations always jump on the trends for monetary gain. I'm on a 4 of 30-day liquid, juice, and next is 30-day raw vegan to try it out. I was pescatarian for 31 years. Yeah, so don't feel offended, Mr. Ray Green. Give thanks that you are transitioning. But pescatarian is just flesh. It's still flesh, right? So, what I'm speaking of and I'm not, I think that that's great. Like, please don't feel no way about me saying that. I think it's great. But I just want to say that it really is eating flesh or not eating flesh, eating animal or not eating animal. And it's that clear. And we should always keep things in simplicity, because truth lies in simplicity, right? Truth definitely lies in simplicity. So the thing is that on a metaphysical level, we're being trapped still in the mentality of flesh eating. Now it's just like, okay, well, do it plant-based so you don't get high cholesterol or have all kind of damaging effects, or you know what I mean? But the whole mentality is part of the system that's organized that most people operate in, right? Babylon system that uh that causes such a destructive disruption. So, like, which flesh eating causes in the system because it doesn't process, you know what I mean? Like any kind of flesh, it doesn't process. We are not carnivores by nature. We are frugivores by nature. And so ideally, we would want to mostly, primarily, if possible, eat mostly fruits. And then we have the herbs for the healing of the nation. And it's written in the Bible as well, Um, so I know if my dear sister is on with me, she will say it is written in Genesis, but I will definitely put that under here so you can see it for yourselves. Yeah, so on a metaphysical level, we kind of get stuck in this mode of spiritual revolving, which still has us attached to flesh eating. So that's another reason, because really, alkaline vegan, from what I read, right? What I read uh in the description of it was that it's beyond alkaline. It is foods that have an alkaline effect on the system. And I was just reading and reading, and I was like, this is straight up the Kemetic consumption. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is the original consumption of the human hue being operative, right? Like, and when we're talking about human, we're not just talking about like, oh, well, you're black and you're white because you're hue, or where we're only talking to black people, right? No, like, we're also speaking about the neuromelanin, you know. We were speaking about the neuromelanin, which is, everybody has, which is part of the brain, which the ancients knew is part of the tapping into the universe. You understand what I'm saying? Like, it gets deep, right? So we're carbon, like, come on, right? So it's, yeah, we are called to come out of this paradigm, and flesh eating and consumption of also packaged food. It's a must if we're going to do that, right? Because packaged foods is like, who knows, if like somebody put together a package for you that you don't know, made it in a laboratory, sprayed whatever on it, did whatever. They could be, picking their noses, they could be spitting in it, they could be giving you whatever and telling you it's something else, and you wouldn't know because it's packaged, right? So any packaged food, check, like, coming out of that mentality, this is a growth of the human evolution in spirit, because the flesh is not separated from the spirit. So the flesh, you know what I mean? If the flesh is dense and heavy and, angry because it's inflamed, because remember, inflammation is almost like a burning fire within. Okay. So that's why it causes pain, right? It causes pain because why? It's something entered the system that it shouldn't be. But then when we think about it on a metaphysical level, it's entering different realms of the system, of the goody, of the spiritual essence of that individual. You know what I mean? So, yes, on a metaphysical level, we are, as a human race, coming out of that mentality to become more sensitive so that we can hear what is necessary to be heard right now, because we're in some very serious times. So ones that are being called to stop eating the flesh, stop eating this, stop eating, separate from Babylon, do whatever you're doing, whatever it is that you're doing, whatever you've been called to do on whatever level that you're doing it in a fullness. It's because it's a preparation for surviving through what's to come, right? And we have to be aware to do that. And if our goodies are sick and inflamed and angry, our spirits will be inflamed, sick, and angry. Our mental, faculties will not be there with us. We will not be sharp as blades of iron that we need to be right now. on all levels, in all things. I mean, it's always been that way. Don't get it twisted, because life is life. Life is very serious, right? But also now we're in some different times now, right? So classifications, no good. That's a no go. That's a no go. You understand what I'm saying? Like, we stick to the comedic way of consumption. And speaking of, one of my favorite books that I always recommend for everyone to get, and you can see, I don't know how, okay, we're gonna see if it clears up. If it clears up, okay, there it is. All right, uh-oh, try to take off the blur. It's called The Comedic Diet, right? And it is by Muata, Dr. Muata Ashby. And it is, I mean, you could see how tattered the book, the book is, right? So it's one books that I really highly recommend, right? But don't fall into the tricks. Research what is, the comedic consumption, our original consumption. If you feel inclined to do more living foods, definitely look into doing more living foods. And I do want to let everybody know that I have a book called Raw Food for Foodies. It is 426 pages, and it's like a raw food textbook. So, I mean, it has 236 recipes. I mean, from juices to smoothies to milks to veggie milks to desserts to, enchiladas, all live, right? Please visit my website. I would like, if you all have any questions, I'm going to go through some of the comments on the side. But if you have any questions, any comments, anything you want to share, please feel inclined to do so. Back to live. It's back to live chefindia.com, right? And I'll put the link below, or in whatever box. If you have not already, please do subscribe. And let's go through some of our participants that came on. Ray Green says he's vegan now. Give thanks. You know what I'm saying? Give thanks. How do you feel? And Indigo Lynn says, I was saying combining food with dense foods often, and it feels terrible. Yeah. Watermelons, all melons should be eaten by themselves, right? One part of this is because of the not all sugars are created equal. Like some sugars are more denser, even, and some fruits contain, or well, watermelon in itself, because of its high water content and sugar content, it usually should be eaten by itself, like all melons. If you can mix melons, but to mix it with denser foods, especially fats, like, you're asking for trouble. You're asking for trouble. And see what happens when you combine your food wrong, when one combines their food wrong. Literally, there's like a gas factory that occurs in your system. You start to ferment. Literally, you become ferment. That's why, side note, in Babylon, like, a lot of people love to eat fermented foods, right? Because it's a culture of fermentation, right? So the inside begins to ferment and it creates alcohol, right? That's the byproduct of that fermentation. And then the byproduct of the alcohol that's created with that wrong food combining is the creation of yeast. Okay. Just like if you were, bottling up some hops and whatever, you put it in, and then you have a beer, you have a fermentation. So that's what goes on in your system when you combine your foods wrong. And then, the foods don't digest properly either. And it can create a really acidic environment. If it's done repeatedly, it can cause damage to the system. And like, then it's difficult to to repair, right? Like, so proper food combining is very important. All melons by themselves. If you eat melon, your people digest differently. Like, I would recommend, like, for me, it would be like an hour and a half to 2 hours at least before I eat anything else. Okay. Beautiful. Yes, I'm hearing you right now, 100%. Oh my God. You literally just started talking about this book as I was as I was uh-oh. Oh my gosh. My 1 second. 1 second. Let me go back up to some of the questions here. Sorry about that. I'm gonna get to them. Don't go nowhere. Um Said, "Oh, you literally started talking about this book as I was about to ask you to reconnect a book now." Okay. And I would recommend my book, Back to Life. It's called Raw Food for Foodies, and I'll put the link below. Okay, just was to thank you for this. I've been eating plant-based with this Tamika Jackson. She's been eating plant-based for vegan for 4 years. However, here recently been drawn to eat more living foods and have been doing so off and on the last 2 months. Congratulations, blessed love. That is a blessed vibration. And I'm glad you're feeling more hydrated, right? A chef told me, Ray Green says, a chef told me we shouldn't eat fruits that don't have seeds or seeds. Is the statement true from your knowledge? I mean, like, from what I understand, like, I'm not no scientist, right? Like, I'm just a normal human being, like everyone else. And when we look at just the classification of what fruit is, like, let's just keep it like common sense. I love simplicity, right? If you can't tell, right? I don't really like all the semantics, right? So simplicity. In simplicity, a fruit is defined as a food that has a seed within it. So, I mean, for me, I definitely aim, like in Belize, like I don't really have a problem finding seeded things because most of the stuff I buy is local, and if the seeded grapes are easy to find here, so if and whenever possible, I'm always going to buy seeded things. If I'm in a situation where that's all I have or I have nothing, it just depends on what level of sensitivity I want to exist on. Like I may be like, well, I need some watermelon juice. You know what I'm saying? I'm sure that the watermelon juice at Whole Foods that they create is not, if I'm traveling and that's all I can get, or I can go buy a watermelon, that's all I have access to, I'm probably going to choose to eat the watermelon. But yes, we do always want to eat the things with seeds because, if you eat things without seeds, then you may become seedless. We have seeds. I'm just saying, right? Okay, going on to such as grapes. I feel my best. Tamika Jackson says, I feel my best when eating live foods, and it's become a natural draw for me. I know, I know, sorry. Oh, okay. I know it's the right thing to do, going to order your book and the Comedic Diet book as well. Well, blessed love, give thanks to Mika Jackson. You will not be disappointed, especially with the living foods. And this book right here is really, really excellent. I love, 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 love this book because, like all comedic science, like what the whole ideal of comedic science and comedic way of being is all inclusive. So this book really includes all aspects of consuming in Ma'at order, right? Which is original alkaline vegan. And living foods is really where we're being called to do because one, and this is a whole nother topic for another day. I know we're getting close to an hour, so I will close soon, but I will say that, again, on a metaphysical level, and a metabolic level, we are mostly water. So we should be eating foods that are mostly water, right? Unless we're infants and we're growing and we're athletes and we're burning excessive amounts of energy and then it's a different thing. And even that still has to be in balance because it doesn't change that most of your goodies still is water based. Okay. Indigo Lynn says, okay, comment question. While juice fasting, I feel great in the beginning. When I get around to day 15, I just can't take it anymore. I feel fatigue, anxious. Just then I slip back into dense food. Okay, so the thing with that is like that's gonna be natural. And this is part of the goody cleansing itself. The longer you juice fast, remember you're shutting down the digestive system. So when you're shutting down the digestive system, you're shutting down everything else. And the goody goes into an elimination mode, not a processing mode. And so when it goes into the elimination mode, the longer you go on a liquid fast and you stop eating, the deeper that elimination is going to become. So a key part of like doing longer fasts would be to definitely, you know, definitely use the bathroom and release that waste, right? Like, and even if you haven't, even if you are using the restroom a lot, it also is just a matter of the waste load that's in the system. So sometimes it becomes, you have to, either you can get through that, you can ride through that that expulsion of waste that's coming out, and the deeper the waste, the heavier the waste, the more of a craving you're going to have, the more inclined you're going to want to be to eat until you have a bowel movement. And after you have a bowel movement, then that hunger will subside, because it's really just the goody expelling waste, right? So it is a science, which is also why I recommend ones and ones. Like, it is good to do these things yourselves, but it also is good to seek ones and ones who have gone through and who have mastered it, and be able to get some level of perspective from them, so that it kind of, you find balance in that. So the reason why you can't take it anymore is because the waste load that's coming out of the system is trying to make its way out. And it's now, because you eat the dense food, it never leaves the system. So you never really get past that 15-day mark unless you allow that waste to leave the system. Now, what you could do, if you just can't, if you feel like you're just about to pass out and it's like, you know what I mean, you could eat some watermelon, right? That would be what you want to eat, not dense food, because remember, you haven't eaten for so long. And you could also hurt your system. You could also damage your system when you do that. Okay, so I hope that assists you in that. Back to the melon combining. Danielle Forbes says, I always understand watermelon should not be combined with anything. I see some recipes that combine watermelon with kale in a salad, or juice with other fruit. Thoughts? Like, that's a big no-no. Like, juice is still gonna cause the gas. Like, you're still gonna get gas, and things are still not gonna digest, and then it's gonna be ferment. You got fermented sugar, which, all my ladies out there and men, there are men who have candida infection as well. I find that a lot of people, most people have candida infection. Excuse me, they're like mosquitoes flying around right now, right? So I find that most people have candida infection in one way or another. I can actually smell candida. Like, candida has a specific smell, right? So, and that has a lot to do with poor food combining, even if you're combining fruits wrong. You could be a living foodist and be combining your fruits wrong, and you always like gassy and bloated, and you're like, oh, I can't do this raw food thing because I'm gassy and bloated, right? Yeah. Danielle says she cannot recommend Chef India's book enough. The recipes are amazing. Give thanks, Danielle. I really appreciate, love it, And the thing is I put a lot of love into that book. It is my 14 years encapsulated. I don't necessarily eat all of the foods there anymore, because, like I've said, it's a transition. I eat a lot of just foods and simplicity, like, just papaya by itself, a lot of water, a lot of coconut water. Some days I have my days where I do eat more dense foods. Like right now I want some avocado, that, which is dense for me. Right. So, but it does have the 14 years of experience and delicious recipes that anyone can, you know, um, can progress. You could go to the website, back to livechefindia.com. I will put that in the link below, because there are some free resources there. You can subscribe. We're going to start doing our email list again. There's been a lot of transitions. I'm living in a Belize forest, jungle, tropical forest, I would say, off grid. And, my husband and I, we have our community up here. And so there's been a lot going on, but now we're kind of settled. We're on our land and we are planting, farming, all of those things. And so now I have more of a stable environment that I can be more, I could be more consistent with engaging you here on this platform and through my website, which is really what I recommend. So anyways, I'm going to get out of here. I can't believe I've spoken for an hour. I didn't think that I could do it. But I was truly impassioned about this topic. And I definitely wanted. Brendan B says, I made the stream this time. Awesome. Give thanks. Give thanks, Indigo. Indigo Lynn says, thank you. That definitely helped. You're awesome. Can't wait to get your book. Blessed love, everyone. Until next time, right? Love your living life, not a style, right? And drink plenty, plenty, plenty of water. And stay away from those categories and classifications and all them things there. Peace, everybody. Blessed love.